So once you submit an application, that's where networking really comes in. And networking makes sure you stand out. So it doesn't matter if you're the most qualified person in the room, if they never see your resume or like see your profile, they'll never invite you because like they don't see you. This is because of just how many people send their application. So if a job gets 100 applications in one day and 3 people are qualified, maybe that's enough for them to like interview, right? Maybe you're qualified too, but you're person number 98. I don't know. So basically networking is when you contact the right people and say, hey, I'm here. I'm very interested. Consider me. I'm also very qualified. So the concept of those rejection emails, they're completely wrong because they don't matter. So if you could put that in your brain of like, it doesn't matter, then everything else opens up. So I applied to jobs, like I applied to like probably thousands of jobs in the last 10 years, right? I don't care if someone sends me an email that says, we're not moving forward. Like they've not met me. They have no idea what I have to offer. It's nothing to do with you. I mean, if you're a motivated person that wants more money, always be applying. I mean, always be interviewing, always be practicing. If you're working in a job and you want to make, 50, 100% increase in salary every year, you're going to do that by switching jobs, period. Like your job is not going to pay you more in the next year. Like what? Like 5%, 10%. The company doesn't want to. I know, that's so generous. Like companies hire you at year 1, whatever. They pay you a certain amount. They're not going to budget to increase salaries by 100% for every, right? But what's crazy is the thinking in business for some reason is, let's open a new position, increase the salary from year 1 now to like year 3, not increase the salary for the person they started in year 1, but the person's coming in year 3, we're going to pay them market rate, which is now higher.
Hello and welcome to Career Spotlight with Vanessa Ajamai. Today, I'm really excited as I have another awesome guest who's come to share their career journey and various tips and insights within their role and what they do. Make sure that you stay tuned. If you're new here, basically what we do is that we have various people come onto the platform and they come and kind of share various motivations, their steps and decisions that they've taken to get to where they're currently at. So I'm sure you'll be able to pick up some pointers from that. Remember to subscribe as well. So today, the guest that we have is Anna Miller. And Anna is a career coach. And so we'll get her to kind of talk more about what she does. First of all, Anna, thank you so much for your time and agreeing to come on Career Spotlight.
Absolutely. I'm happy to be here.
Great. So first of all, can you start by kind of telling us what you do now and what that role entails?
Yeah, absolutely. So today I run a company called Second Careers, and we support people finding jobs in tech. And that means career training in terms of the job search area. So basically, I offer coaching and online course and resources. And a lot of my day-to-day is supporting clients and any job seeker that reaches out on the process of the job search. So I teach people job search skills. I help them with mindset. And another thing that is behind the scenes is I'm also a founder. So a lot of my behind the scenes work is something like content writing, creating marketing, maybe doing my own kind of podcast or webinar talk. So there's two kind of areas as a career coach or anyone that has their own business is that you'll have, the actual services and interactions with the public, and then what you're doing for your business itself.
Great, thanks for that explanation. We'll come back to second careers very shortly, but before we do, could you kind of share some of your key transitions within your career?
Yeah, so I wasn't always a career coach. I actually started out in project management, and I was doing freelance work for a couple of years as a web developer. I did WordPress websites for small businesses, and I realized I didn't want to kind of do that forever or get stuck there. So I moved to project management for large kind of digital projects. So advertising agencies would have clients that want like large websites or applications. So I was the person that helped arrange like, what are we building, help define the communication, maintain relationships with clients, things like that. So I started out in tech doing large website projects essentially. And then I moved into product management, which is more on like the product development side. So I would work very closely with engineers, designers, and company leaders to actually build something useful and impactful for customers in SaaS platforms, apps, whatever the product was. So it was always in the tech space, and that was really interesting to me because it's a more innovative space than some other industries. And around the time of the pandemic, so a few years back, I decided I wanted to create my own business and I wasn't sure what. So I started to explore coaching as kind of a topic in general. And that pivoted into specifically career coaching and then job search related, right? So as a career coach, you could still have a specialty. It's actually a pretty broad term. You could specialize in an industry. You could specialize in the level of people. Like I focus more on like earlier career and mid-career. I'm not really working with directors or VPs or executive, right? So, so industry focus, level focus. You can even go deeper into like people moving from one job to another. For example, I support a lot of people moving from non-tech industries to tech. So that's kind of where I landed. But the transition was basically working in tech, understanding the industry, and then deciding to run my own business. And I was like, what can I offer? I was like, well, I have a lot of experience in tech and people don't, and people want to. So I'm going to help them bridge that gap.
Sure. So was there a particular reason why you chose to work more with people kind of in the middle of their career or starting up?
Yeah. So a lot of times, you can basically help people do the things that you went through. So I kind of paused at like that middle level of my career in like a company. So I wasn't going to, be as helpful to someone with like challenges of being a director or VP or CEO. Like that's simply not the experience that I had. So I wasn't going to bring that to the table. But I know how to get your first, second, third, fifth job because I've been through 7 job searches myself. So I decided to bring the experience that I knew really well and then make it even more kind of specific by focusing on learning the specific strategies on top of what I practiced on my own, and kind of building, a service around that and creating coaching, career coaching from there.
Cool. As founder of Second Careers, what do you find rewarding about the role and what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, I got into coaching because that's where I could have the most impact. A lot of times you may not feel like you're having like one-to-one impact or the most like outcomes because of some structures in the company that you're at. And I was, project manager and a product manager at various companies from large organizations to startups. And I realized that I wasn't creating the impact that I wanted because I just wasn't in a position to make certain decisions. So I decided if I'm going to have my own company, I can make all the decisions that I feel create the most impact. that's something that you probably start thinking about in like middle of your career, maybe 3 years in. The first couple of years, you're like figuring out, okay, like what is this and what am I good at? And do I want to even do this, right? But then a few years in, I realized, as a product manager, like I want to have a certain amount of impact and I want to create certain outcomes. But in a company that you don't own, you really have to like be a really good team player. And that sometimes can look like not doing the things that you strongly believe in. And that didn't fit with my personality. So I was like, I can't take this. I'm going to create systems and practices and actual impact that I feel is real. And like, I'm not like playing some mind games, right? So basically, when I went out on my own, career coaching was the place that I could create impact right away. Because like it's a one-to-one relationship or maybe a group setting, and you're actually teaching people things that they can put into practice right away, and it's impacting their lives like right now.
Yeah.
So I like that a lot. So you have as much control as possible, and you create like actual impact in people's lives, especially as a coach of any kind.
Sure. Talking about having an impact on people's lives, could you share some examples of some of the people that you've helped along their career journeys?
Yeah. So one of my very first clients, get this, I started engaging with her, just chatting and seeing if it would be a fit to work together. And because I'm in the career space, I look at a lot of jobs.
Mm,
And when someone new comes to me, I start being on the lookout for like different jobs that could be a fit for them. It's really easy for me. It's very helpful for them. So good impact in the beginning. And I found a role that I thought could be a fit because she's a teacher and this was an education company in the tech space. So I sent her the role and I thought nothing of it. And then few weeks later, we started working together and we started engaging in coaching. I started teaching her like certain skills about networking, interviewing, etc. And she told me that she had already done a first interview with this company that I sent her. And that was
oh,
just really crazy because like I never assumed that like, oh, this one role, like I wasn't sending her a ton of roles. I maybe sent her
yeah.
3 roles. This one role that I sent her, she applied and she got an interview right away. And then she kept going through the interview process and she got the offer. So she
Oh,
went from literally 0 interviews. She had never done interviews because she just wasn't able to like get an interview, just wasn't working out for 5 months. And she was like ready to give up. And she did a boot camp. So she was like really interested in moving into, tech. So I sent her this role. She did these interviews. I helped her along the way. And like that was the role that she's still in. And that changed her life because now she has like her first in tech, her first job. And honestly, it was like such a random thing, like so much luck was involved. I just sent her this role and
yeah,
this role ended up being the offer. So that was my very first experience. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. I think I can do this.
that's awesome. Yeah, so what's your approach to kind of challenging times? What approach do you take when it comes to handling challenges?
Yeah. So in career coaching, you're not fully responsible, but you have a little bit of responsibility, right? Because you're someone that someone looks to and looks up to for support, like in the professional relationship. And they're looking to you for like the best practice of what to do. So what's been challenging is sometimes people get demotivated for different things that are happening in their lives, and you're only one tiny sliver of what's happening, right? Like their career and working with a career coach is maybe 1% of like everything else, right? Um, so not knowing like what's going on in someone's life and not knowing how to best support them if they don't speak up about it, that creates a challenge. What that looks like is they engage with you, right? So a client says, I want to work with you, they paid me, and then we're working together. But then at a certain point, they don't respond as often, or they don't complete certain assignments, or they're just like not taking the actions that you both know are important to their goal, right? Because coaching is very goal oriented. It's not like a exploratory conversation. Like you have conversations and then you create certain goals and actions from that. So that's what kind of challenging to like wonder, okay, if there's anything I can do, or you just step away and wait for the person to come back to the process themselves. So like another challenge is just mindset challenges. So when someone's learning something new, it feels really uncomfortable, people get nervous. So helping people like walk through the process and sometimes even doing it with them. One thing I teach is networking. So how do you contact people when you don't know them and you want to get an interview, and how do you navigate that conversation? So helping people just break through some of the mindset blocks there. But generally that's kind of part of the work of coaching.
Sure.
So there's definitely some challenges, but overall it's very rewarding. So that's kind of why I'm still in it.
Sure. Mindset can be quite a like difficult thing to try and change when it comes to other individuals. So how do you go about doing that?
Yeah, so no one's going to change anyone. You don't change anything. Like, I'm not going to change what you're thinking about, or, we don't have telepathic powers yet.
Mhm.
However, there are methods and strategies of giving people tools and practicing something with them. So you can empower them by providing positive reinforcement. It could be like, this is great, you did a good job, just like very basic things. You give them tools. So you tell them, here's what you might be thinking is here's how you could think about it. So you just give them a forward-looking example of kind of an experience they haven't had yet, but one they could have. You could also literally practice with them. So some people that struggle to do certain things, I'm like, okay, let's get on a call and like do this together. Let's do it once or twice, and then they get the hang of it. So basically doing things together, positive reinforcement, and giving people tools have been some of the strategies that I've used. There's other strategies outside of like just the mental stuff, like there's somatic practices and breath work and stuff. But in a career space, like I don't engage with that as much because that's not what the client is engaging with me for, but I am informed of them. So like I know about them because mindset is not just like the mind.
Yeah,
There's a lot of stuff going on. But just from the bare minimum, there's different tools you can use in maneuvering the conversation.
sure. And you mentioned helping like your clients with networking. Is networking something that is truly effective? And do you believe that there is a kind of right approach to go about it?
Yeah, absolutely. So in networking, there's definitely like a right or wrong. It's not like right, it's not like wrong means like, oh, you're doing it wrong. It just means like you're not going to get people to talk to you. So
Mm,
if you want to get people to talk to you, there's a good approach, there's like a best practice, and then there's like it's not gonna work kind of practice. So networking is one of the most effective tools, and in tech industry, it's the most effective tool. So people that you know today, people that you could be meeting online, people you meet in like conferences, whatever you do, virtual or in person, this is what's going to help you actually build relationships. When we're looking for a job, when we're switching careers or building a new career, we forget that it's like it's not a paper, like we're not pushing papers, like we're building relationships with people. What are relationships? Relationships are conversations. Okay, where do we get conversations? Well, we got to start them, right? You
yeah,
got to own the process. So what I teach is networking in a very human and empathetic way so that people can use methods to form those relationships, and also have asks. So you want to build this concept called social capital. It's from someone that I read about. I don't remember her name, but it's basically just like you build like wealth, like money capital, right? Like this is social capital. This is people that can help you and help you access things, right? So money helps us access things, buy things, right? Same thing with people. So building social capital is the place where you actually access interviews, you access jobs, you access opportunities, whatever you're looking for. So that's kind of one of the main strategies I teach people, and sometimes it's a bit new to them, and eventually they figure it out.
Sure. So once one has submitted an application and been successful and now has an interview, do you have any tips in terms of interview tips that will help or has been proven to help people land their jobs that they want?
Well, if you submit an application that does not guarantee an interview, did you want to talk about that space of what to do after you submit an application?
Yeah.
Okay, so once you submit an application, that's where networking really comes in. And networking makes sure you stand out. So it doesn't matter if you're the most qualified person in the room, if they never see your resume or like see your profile, they'll never invite you because like they don't see you. This is because of just how many people send their application. So if a job gets 100 applications in one day, and 3 people are qualified, maybe that's enough for them to like interview, right? Maybe you're qualified too, but you're person number 98. I don't know. So basically networking is when you contact the right people and say, hey, I'm here. I'm very interested. Consider me. I'm also very qualified. So
Yeah.
obviously it's helpful if you're qualified. So it's about creating that visibility. Once you kind of get visible, whether it's through a cold app without networking or adding networking, once you get to the interview stage, the biggest tip I have for interviews is to essentially make the conversation as natural as possible. So to basically go away from that myth of I'm going to sit back and like force them, you're kind of like forcing someone, right? Imagine if you went on a date and you only answered question that your date asked you, and like you put no effort to like asking them questions, but like commenting on the conversation, saying anything. So can you imagine that? That would be really awkward, right?
Yeah.
But why do we think about interviews that way? It's very strange. Interviews is really about forming a connection in a professional space that's focused on what you can help them with. But the thing is, you don't know what you can help them with if you don't know enough about the company and the role and stuff. That's literally what the interview is about. So you can learn about the company, the role, the team, and then they can learn about your skills and how they're relevant. So it's really about speaking up and carrying the conversation and leading it. So you want to stand out as someone that cares, and someone that cares is not going to sit back and like never comment on the conversation. So you can ask questions about like things you're talking about mid interview. You can give compliments. You can kind of be a human, just have a conversation on a specific topic, right? Instead of
Yeah.
catching up with your friends and like talking about all these different things that happen during your weekend, you're more focused. That's the only difference. But the communication itself, the way you're communicating should be more fluid and two-sided than one-sided.
Sure. On that, some interviews, they normally dedicate the time for questions at the end. So then what would be your advice to managing that then, if they've got a specific designated space right at the
Yeah.
end of the interview?
Well, I would say to completely ignore that concept because it's not true. It's like, I'm not sure what metaphor, but one thing that I want to bring up is that as job seekers, we can be very naive. And what that means is we take things very literally. And I don't know where, you're probably mid-career at this point, but
Yeah.
I remember when I was early on in my career and someone 3 years or less, even 5 years or less, if you take every single thing written as literally, you're going to basically like be in a confused state and not be like yourself and just like mess things up, not because you're like intentionally, but because like you don't know how to navigate it, because like life is not literal. Jobs are not the job description.
Yeah.
We have to think broader and think beyond the literal. And why I said that sometimes as people, we could be really naive because when we're reading something and thinking that that's the exact truth of what's going to happen, and also, why are you giving them power to direct the conversation? Like, you have power, you want to empower yourself as well. So never think of like a system as the truth in a broader scale. You want to always approach any interaction, whether it's a job interview, a date, meeting a new person in a conference, as an in-person human interaction. And no in-person human interaction is one-sided. That would be very bland and unnecessary, in my opinion. So basically, go beyond the job description, go beyond the myths, go beyond what you're used to seeing or thinking and what other people are, and be like, listen, I'm talking to another human. Let's make this a useful conversation for both of us. Hopefully that gives you some more context where I'm coming
It
from.
does. Yeah, I think it's good advice. Talking about advice, what advice do you wish that someone had told you early on in your career?
Um, so I had no guidance at all. My parents did the best they could, but they actually ran their own business their whole lives. So they had no idea what to do in interviews, what an interview is. You get jobs. They had no idea.
Mm,
They were also, my dad's a dentist and my mom runs a business. So they're in the medical
yeah.
fields.
Yeah.
So I know like some things about dentistry just by default, but like they couldn't help me because I was in the tech field.
Yeah.
So on top of that, I did not meet any people that were like mentors for longer than like maybe a few months while I was like working there, right? So it was really hard to figure things out. So I did everything possible from what I knew, which is like reaching out to people, networking in like real life coffee chats, just asking questions. A lot of what I did was reading blogs from experts, and that was literally how I learned like what project management is, what product management is, what is an application, how to work with developers. All the things that I ended up doing, I learned from reading mostly and then putting it into practice. um so I guess my biggest advice is like find someone in your field that you can establish a mentorship relationship with, even if it's once a month or once every 3 months that you meet and kind of discuss what you're doing in your career, how you're feeling about it. Just someone that like cares enough to like and has the right context. It can't be like a doctor and you're an engineer. Like they can't help you. It needs to be someone relevant, someone with enough experience, someone who cares enough to kind of like move you in a direction that they understand, like is interesting to you. Um, Now with LinkedIn blowing up, like LinkedIn is like a huge resource. People are learning so much. I mean, people learn how to interview from TikTok now. So whatever works for you. Now that there's so much resources, like establish these key relationships and keep in touch with them to like, maybe it's a series of mentors, maybe it's people you email, you know, once every couple months and like share an update on your career and then give you a tip. It could be anything, but basically find people in your area of interest, of expertise, and kind of start a relationship where they can help move you in different directions that you want to go to. That's what would have been really helpful for me.
Sure. That's good. And on LinkedIn, talking about LinkedIn, you have like 20,000 followers. Why do you think that is?
So I post often, so you don't have to be anyone interesting, actually. You can, if you post, people will follow. It actually doesn't mean that much. What I post is very specific to job search and career.
Mm.
And I post a lot of advice, a lot of tools and resources, a lot of like insights. So basically people follow me as one of those mentors that they can learn from. And that helps them kind of practice new skills for their career.
Sure, that makes sense. So rejections, they are something that are quite a common part of when we're talking about job search and that whole process. Do you have like a experience of rejection and how did you kind of turn it around if you do?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first thing that I want to mention is the concept of those rejection emails, they're completely wrong because they don't matter. So if you could put that in your brain of like, it doesn't matter, then everything else opens up. So I applied to jobs, like I applied to like probably thousands of jobs in the last 10 years, right?
Mm.
I don't care if someone sends me an email that says, we're not moving forward. Like they've not met me. They have no idea what I have to offer. It's nothing to do with you. So again, this is the concept of taking things too literally. And this is normal because this is really hard for like the normal human brain to be like, this is not personal. But
Mhm.
like you can literally delete it. It means nothing, like zero information, no context, no relevance. The only way that it means something is if you did an interview, they went through a process, and then they said, we like you, we don't like you, whatever, like you're not a fit or you are a fit. If you've met with the person, they can give you feedback. Everything is feedback. There is no rejection or non-rejection. There is just feedback. And there's also a fit, if you're a fit or not a fit. So if you've gone through an interview and it's just not a fit, they're going to say, no, thank you. Okay, that means fine. Like you're not a fit. What are you going to do? Like that's not for you. There's a million things out there. There's the whole universe. So when you're dating and you meet someone, I'm sure a lot of women are like, I don't know about this guy many, many times. Do
Mm.
you think men would ever find dates if they were like, she doesn't like me, I should stop dating? No. So it's interesting is that men get trained in rejection immediately because of the social dynamics, while women are used to like being liked more. And then women tend to look at rejection as like a deeply personal, like, oh my God, there's something really wrong with me. And it's like, no, this has nothing to do with anything about who you are. First of all, in the career space, it's not personal at all, right? It's like very, very hard to make it personal. You really have to work with someone and like have a personal conflict. Usually it's not personal. Um, and two, in the career space, it's like there's a job. It will make the company a certain amount of money. Are you the person who can do this job, and are you the best fit based on other people? So that's pretty much it. So it's important to just kind of see the broader picture and not make it so personal. But what's crazy and like natural in a way, but also kind of crazy is that like when we're job searching, our minds naturally look at the process and be like, this is feedback on me as a person, my self-esteem, who I am, my self-respect, like everything. Be like,
Yeah.
oh my God, no, it's not. But it can feel like that because of the process. So what I teach people is like changing their mindset and understanding that the process does not equal, how you think about it. The process is this really big and personal, dark place. But to make it more personal and less dark, you network, right? So you meet people. So if you're networking, you meet people and you start to self-qualify. You understand, oh, I'm actually not a good person for this role. So you start to gain information. So really rejection is just lack of information. The more information you have, the more you can understand if it's a good fit or not. And then both you're evaluating fit for the role, and then the company is when you're interviewing. But those emails, they mean absolutely zero, less than zero. They're like nothing. I tell everyone to ignore them. They're the worst. It's just a consequence of digital technology gone wrong. One of those things. It's just like not a good practice, but it's the best that people have right now, which isn't very good, but it gets in people's minds. So that's my take on the concept of rejection. It's like, sometimes it's not a fit. It could be not a fit for a while. It's really about figuring out what's the right fit and keep going.
Sure. Yeah, I think it's a very key point for people not to take it personally, because it's so easy to just start reflecting and thinking it's all about you. I mean, I guess it doesn't hurt maybe thinking about whether, for example, if your CV needs a bit of a rejig or something like that, but to actually take the rejection personally is, yeah, I think what you said is very key to not get you kind of stuck and down, and rather focus on how to move forward with the applications, because you never know which one's going to be the next one that comes through.
Yeah. And as a career coach, my big responsibility is to help people understand that the job search is not personal, it's a business, and to think more like a business than a individual person who is, judging things based on the reactions of others. It's just like very complicated. So to make it more simple, it's about finding the right fit. It could take a couple months, but if you keep going, it will happen.
Sure. I once received advice that even if you're not looking for new roles, that it's good to sometimes still apply. What's your view on kind of that
Yeah,
point?
absolutely. I mean, if you're a motivated person that wants more money, always be applying. I mean, always be interviewing, always be practicing. If you're working in a job and you want to make, 50, 100% increase in salary every year, you're going to do that by switching jobs, period. Like your job is not going to pay you more in the next year. Like what? Like 5%, 10%. The
I think
company
that's
doesn't
even
want
generous.
to. I know, that's so generous. Like companies hire you at year one, whatever. They pay you a certain amount. They're not going to budget to increase salaries by 100% for every, right? But what's crazy is the thinking in business for some reason is, let's open a new position, increase the salary from year one now to like year three. Not increase the salary for the person they started in year one, but the person's coming in year three, we're going to pay them market rate, which is now higher. So we're going to spend money to interview people, to onboard them and give them a better salary. But yeah, we won't give the person that has been doing an awesome job the same salary. Like, have you ever heard be like, Vanessa, I know you've been working here for 3 years. You've been doing an amazing job. What we're doing is actually going to pay you market rate for what a new employee would make. And we're going to give you from 80K, we're going to give you 120K, because that's what we actually pay an employee today. Ever heard that? If you've had,
Never.
that would be revolutionary. But like that makes more sense, right?
Yeah.
That's more logical.
Yeah.
So, one way to do that is to say, listen, I have a better job offer. They're paying me 120K. Do you want me to stay here? I like it here. I could stay here. But honestly, I want more money because I have my own dreams and goals. And the company's like, oh my God, yeah, absolutely. We can offer you that. Like, seriously, you have to threaten them? Why? So yes, always be interviewing if you actually care about growing your wealth and
Yeah.
getting a diversity of work experiences. And if you're a curious person that wants to, be paid what you're worth.
Sure. Thank you so much. Do you have any kind of final words?
So for anyone that's interested in like coaching or anything like that, it's a very almost personal experience. So you probably will figure out like, what do you want to coach on based on your own interests? I started out in mindset coaching because I really wanted to help people kind of remove any limiting beliefs and mindset blocks. I personally did a lot of this work for myself, and I believe in it. So this is something that I wanted to do. And then I moved into career coaching because this is something that I also believe that like you could build the life you want with the salary you want. Like pretty simple strategy there. But it has to be something you believe in. Coaching is something that is personal to the coach. So if you don't like coaching people on whatever topic, it's not gonna be a good fit. You could also probably work in a company doing some coaching work. But some notes on that, for some reason, like career coaching in the US is not very well paid. It's like 50, 60K a year, which is crazy. Like they expect a lot of work and they don't pay them that well. If you're doing like executive coaching or leadership coaching, that's completely different. It's not my space, but that's open too. But yeah, it's like there's a huge space. You can basically figure out whatever you want. I basically created my own company, job, niche, like all of that. So you could be as creative as you want. Basically, my main tip is whatever you do, it's always best if you believe in it and if it's energizing for you. If you like wake up in the morning, you're like, I'm excited to do this. Like that's the best case scenario.
Great, thank you so much, Anna. I'm sure that those either viewing or listening will be able to get some tips and pointers that they can utilize for their career journey. So thank you.
Absolutely.